Welcome back to Crit and Crit. I'm Axion.
And I'm Sid.
And we are continuing our playthrough of Final Fantasy V and our discussion of the Harry Potter series.
Yep, we are still on the Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Last time we did a quick rundown of just the basics of what happens over the course of the story. What's our first topic for this one?
So, a big factor in this particular story is the difference of social class between various characters within the wizarding world, and that becomes a major part of the story's focus in this book.
Yep. I want to actually go ahead and say that it's more important than just for the purposes of literary analysis. It probably facilitates the entire plot being able to happen. Because the two families that really showcase the two ends of the socioeconomic spectrum in the wizarding world are the Malfoys and the Weasleys. And the Chamber of Secrets is only able to be opened because of Reynolds Diary being concealed in one of the second-hand books that Ginny had. If it had been in a new book, there would have obviously been suspicion as to why there is this mysterious thing shoved in the cover of it, but secondhand stores, there's a little bit more room for surprises like that. So if the Weasleys had not needed to buy many of Ginny's school supplies secondhand, it probably would have been noticed much sooner and never become an issue for the plot.
Yep. There's also kind of the issue of the difference between wizard families of, as they call them in the story, pureblood, versus those wizards born in Muggle families.
But that's probably a separate discussion, because there's a lot of fodder for that one, and we can probably get a whole video just out of the socioeconomic situation alone.
That's fair.
So let's start with the Weasleys on the low end of things. We've known from the first book that Ron's family is not very well off. He's got a used wand that's been passed down the family when pretty much every other wizarding first year introduced has their own, but wands are really expensive. Ron has just some homemade sandwiches when everybody else is buying treats off of the dessert cart on the train. And seems almost embarrassed when Harry offers to share when Harry is buying it, because Harry has literally never had the chance to spend his own money on frivolous things before, so he's going a little ham with it. And that tracks with a lot of observations I've had over the years of poverty being rather stigmatized, even when that makes no logical sense with the way the economy actually works. But it was kind of surprising to see that in a non-American work, to be honest, just given how the US seems to go much, much harder on that culturally than others. But that could just be my very limited lens, and I could very well be wrong on that. So we've known from the start that Ron is in a less advantageous situation. We actually get to see their house this time and see that bedrooms are very small. Many of the siblings share rooms, which happens in many families anyway. I shared a room with my sister for many years.
Yep, I shared one with my brother for pretty much my entire childhood. We never had our own rooms. Yep.
But the house is pretty ramshackle, described as looking like it's basically held up by magic. Everything looks a little bit worn down and well-loved and well-used, I think is how it's described. It's a very welcoming environment, and Harry is definitely able to notice how it compares to the Dursleys in terms of, like, wealth, but because of his experiences with the Dursleys, he still sees it as a far, far superior place, and actually tells Ron it's the best house he's ever been in.
Hey, look, it's these guys!
Oh, yay. But yeah, so we also get further indication of this because, well, again, large family, Mr. Weasley has to work. He's actually in the Muggle Affairs or Muggle Relations Department. I can't remember the exact wording on it. But they have a car that Arthur Weasley took from work and enchanted. It's a pretty beat up one, which is probably how he managed to do that with, you know, people not noticing. But there's also the concern when they get the shopping list and they see that the entire oeuvre of Lockhart's books are on the required reading list. And that means a set for every kid. They have several kids in school, and Mrs. Weasley is instantly worried that they won't be able to afford it. And when we do go to Gringotts for them to get their supplies, they actually clean out their vault, and Harry is so self-conscious about this that he's trying to block the view of his own bank vault from the Weasleys because he doesn't want to feel like he's showing off. So, yeah. The Weasleys are pretty much always described, except for Percy, as having secondhand stuff because they went and sprung to get Percy brand new things because he's a prefect and therefore we should try to do something special because this is a big deal.
Right. Really want to kill these things before they explode.
Yeah, I don't blame you. So, then we have Harry... Ooh, yeah, that hurts. We have Harry sitting pretty solidly in the middle. Like, he's well off, but he's also, you know, not managing an entire household. He has his parents' entire life savings for himself. So I don't think we ever get, like, a full indication of how well off he is, but, like, he's probably not going to be, like, riding around on a gold-plated broomstick anytime soon. So he's kind of in the middle, so it gives us a pretty good comparison between the Weasleys and the Malfoys on either extreme.
Yep. So, on that note, let's talk about the Malfoys. The Malfoys are... Even in the first book, the Draco Malfoy is depicted as having the best of everything that is available to him.
Except personalities.
Well, yes. But you can't buy a personality, no matter how much the TV tells you otherwise.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure. Okay, can't go that way.
Yeah, you're not doing very well with that waterfall.
I was wondering if there's like a secret or something in the waterfall.
The secret is you're wet.
Anyway,
that's what's in the chamber!
No new magic. He's always described as being dressed in very fine clothing. He's always, what's the word I'm looking for?
Swinging his weight around?
Yeah. He has a lot of, social sway, because his family is well respected, and because they are a long-time family that is well known, even if not necessarily well liked.
Yeah, the Malfoys are very much an old money family. They are one of the old wizarding families. They have maintained their bloodline. They have always been a very strong and prominent presence in the wizarding community, for better or for worse. And Lucius Malfoy has clearly instilled the values in his son of making sure people know that you are the big dog. Malfoy has always been able to rely on his dad's influence and reputation. I mean, from the very first book, we get a lot of indication of, like, my father will hear about, my father will, I will tell my father, and etc., etc., etc. It's a very my dad works at Nintendo vibe. But you get the idea that Malfoy doesn't really have much experience with consequences. We mentioned before that he's kind of a counterpoint to Dudley, and that they are both extremely spoiled brats. It's just Malfoy doesn't physically beat you up. Malfoy has lackeys to do it for him, and he's going to sit here and tear apart your psyche the whole time, and possibly get your father removed from his job if he can swing it. Depends how bored he is.
Yep, which he does try to do in this book. He tries to get Mr. Weasley fired because of some of the things that happen in the story.
Yep, Mr. Malfoy has never liked Mr. Weasley anyway, because we'll get into the wizarding-muggle relations and politics thereof later. But he viewed the Weasleys as an embarrassment, and, well, since the students don't get along either, it just kind of compounds the grudges, which, honestly, it really kind of showcases how small the wizarding world is, in that, yes, that political activist, or that politician, yeah, I also go to school with his kid, and we're in the exact same class, so I hate him just like my father hates his father. Because, you know, bucking the generational trend is a complex subject that we're not getting into, apparently. So, I don't know, it feels a little bit limited in world building, but it is only the second book, and it is, again, like a kid's story, so I could be just asking too much. And I believe it does get a little more nuanced in later books. It's been a bit, I do have to finish rereading the series. But, yeah. So, the Malfoys are also in a position to basically have skeletons in their closet, but also have the influence to get forewarning about when they might be caught up with that, so they can hide evidence, they can pay people off, etc., which is where Tom Reynolds' Diary comes into play. It's one of the artifacts from the helping Voldemort days that the Malfoys have that Lucius is trying to quietly move before the Ministry can catch him with them. So he manages to slip that into the hands of Ginny Weasley, who would be a PR nightmare if anything went wrong, which is probably what he's intending, if he actually knew what the diary was beyond just it belongs to Voldemort and therefore, you know, is important. So slipping this into the hands of the poor daughter of someone he's never been able to stand sets up a really good scapegoat opportunity.
And we'll just pause here a moment.
Puppy does not respect recording schedules. Anyway, where were we?
Talking about the conflict between the Malfoys and the Weasleys, specifically in this case how Malfoy was trying to frame Ginny with sticking evil artifacts in her stuff.
Yep, and I'm not sure if he actually knew it would open the Chamber of Secrets or not, or if he just wanted to be in a position that he could blackmail Arthur Weasley. Either option is perfectly viable and in character for him, because this is essentially how he works. As mentioned before, Lucius was the one who managed to get Dumbledore temporarily removed from his school because he pressured, either financially or socially, the other governors of the school. So, yeah. The Malfoys are a textbook case of spending basically the entire franchise throwing money at the problem. In this book alone, we have the incident with the school's Board of Governors removing Dumbledore at a time when Dumbledore really, really needed to be at the school. And also, at the beginning of the story, Malfoy making his way onto the Slytherin team because Lucius Malfoy made a gift of 7 top-of-the-line brand new racing brooms for everyone. So it's even commented on that the Gryffindor team got on by sheer talent. You had to buy your way in. Which Malfoy seems to resent, but honestly, it got him on the team, so he doesn't really have a whole lot to complain about.
Got it.
Yep. So, yeah, not an option the Weasleys have ever had of being able to bribe their way out of a problem. which does come up in this because, well, with the whole flying car incident, Mr. Weasley does get in trouble at work and has to face an internal investigation. So Malfoy probably would have been able to buy his way out of that one if he had been in that position. Mr. Weasley does not have this as a viable option. So, yeah.
That hurt.
Yep. Don't you like the squirrels?
Not particularly.
Yep. So we could also possibly have this set up with Hagrid. We don't really know his financial situation, but we know that like he was usually in trouble, and that probably indicates he didn't have much influence to get his way out of it. But it falls apart a little bit in this when Riddle comes into play, because Riddle was in Harry's situation, lost his family and had a place he had to live over the summers that he absolutely despised, though in his case it was an orphanage. Harry would probably prefer the orphanage, to be perfectly honest. So it's not just the... This is not a situation where social class is automatically equated with good and evil. There is some mix in the pot here,
Right.
which is good. More nuance is good, and that's, I think, more realistic, and honestly, it sends a better message that way, because, you know, you don't want that to be the case. So, social class, very important to just the overall power dynamics of the story, which really sets up a lot of the conflicts of the story. It also plays a part at the end with Lockhart, because if Ron had been able to afford a new wand, Lockhart would have been able to mind wipe Ron and Harry at the end.
Yep.
And Ginny would be dead, Hogwarts would probably be closed. So, yeah. Lots and lots of squirrels in here.
Yep.
So why do you sound so irritated by them? Are they that much worse than anything else?
The gray ones are. You saw how much damage they can inflict.
I mean, I'm used to you taking damage. I also like how ominous its name is compared to all the other ones. We have, oh, look at the Nutkins. Now we have Skull Eater. But, yeah. We can also look at the Dursleys in terms of social class as well. Like, they're clearly not poor because, well, they have very clear thoughts on things. But they're probably also not ultra-rich, so probably solidly middle class, which means appearances and expectations to maintain. And Harry fits into none of them, so they don't even treat him like he's part of the family. Because, you know, appearances are more important than actually being good people.
And this is why I don't like this cave.
Yeah, it's a little nuts.
I was hoping that the Goblin Punch wouldn't count as magic, because that's what makes them multiply.
Can we focus on the fact that you thought a blue magic ability was not magic?
Well, that's the thing, is what counts as a magical attack it varies from game to game.
See, this is why I just don't use blue magic. Can't you just run from these things anyway?
Yes, but I'd rather not flee if I don't have to.
Oh, you mean like it just did?
Yes, exactly. Anyway.
But yeah, so Dursleys, again, they're very, very focused on appearances because they are a pretty solidly middle-class family, They do not want to be associated with anything out of the ordinary or untoward, which, you know, they probably... You can put basically anything into that category, and it's probably correct for them. So this kind of leaves Harry kind of floundering and out for, you know, no support system. So it's kind of paradoxical in that sense of, like, you know, you'd think that having a more stable financial situation would make a place safer, but it doesn't. Not for Harry. Harry, honestly, is in less of a safe situation with the Dursleys than basically anywhere else, until he actually has monsters trying to kill him at school. But, you know, that's not something we can fix until we fix Hogwarts, which I don't think is going to happen because magic shenanigans.
Stop killing me!
But that's their job. They're road hazards.
Probably should have bought Malfoy's house back in town.
Probably. Maybe if you fight a snake, it'll fly in and shed a few feathers for you.
I would be so lucky. Okay, good. Regular squirrels at the end.
Yay.
But yeah, the Dursleys' opinions on how class should come into play and things really seem to just revolve around the idea of being considered normal.
Yep.
You know what? Good enough.
The normal, again, can vary based on many factors. And, I think it's in the 4th book, they do very visibly try to intimidate the Weasleys when they come to pick Harry up for the World Cup. We'll talk about this more later, because Uncle Vernon goes out of his way to full-on dress up and make very pointed looks at how shabbily Mr. Weasley is dressed. So I think there is an element of class to it too, but it's less present in this book, so we can probably shelve that until later.
Yep.
And yeah, I find it interesting that, like, you'd think from Hagrid's comment in the 1st book of using magic to solve all of their problems for them, that wizards would have managed to work out something with the whole inequality situation, because we can see it's clearly affecting students at Hogwarts in terms of, like, okay, Lockhart's come in and we've got a very extensive book list this year, and this is the first time we've actually heard mention of a second-hand shop, which it makes sense. It makes absolute sense that there would be something like that in the wizarding world. But, yeah. But it's also noted if someone's wearing shabbier robes than somebody else, if they don't have the best of everything, if their cauldron has been patched in the bottom several times. So, yeah. Class is very clearly represented, even in as small a school overall as Hogwarts. And I say small in the sense of you only have like 40 incoming kids for the only wizarding school in England that we're aware of. For each given year. So, I don't know. But, yeah, it's just an interesting wrinkle there, and I think that it maybe will factor in more with other things later when we move on to discuss the blood purity situation that has been raised in this book, which is probably a good topic to move on to.
Yep, so we will continue with that next time.
Yep.
See y'all then.
And there will be more squirrels.
Thankfully not.